r/askreddit. What's something that everyone uses on a daily basis, but has no actual practical use? Meetings that could have been emails. Only thing worse than a meeting that could have been an email is a 40 email thread that should have been a 10-minute meeting. This. Don't litter my inbox with your pissing match. Have a conversation for the love of God. Totally my experience. Just open a private dialogue and go at it. Leave the other 38 people out of that shit. Lol. Then they ask me what my take was from the email string. So I quit reading after the first and silenced the whole shit. You ever type your opinion out in a well thought email, then proofread it and then decide that it's not worth sending? Not because your points are not valid, but simply because it won't matter and they don't pay you enough to care. There is one thing that's worse. Reply all. Why am I in this thread? Please remove me. I hate this. Especially when it's a situation where whatever the issue was is now just two people communicating about it because it's basically resolved, but they still CC everyone. So I have to read through all of their back and forth just to see if I need to be involved anymore. Or when computer illiterate co-workers reply all to every single company-wide email, or carry on reply all conversations in those emails. The problem, I think, is that people don't read them until they're in the meeting. That could have been an email. Then they spend the whole time checking email instead. I'm so triggered. I once went to a meeting where people complained about not being properly informed about changes being made at the company. They didn't know what was happening. Nobody updated them. I was very surprised. All of this should have been included in the emails sent out. Was there some sort of malfunction? Didn't they receive them? Their answer? The emails were too long, so they didn't read them. I nearly got up and quit right there and then. I once put in a 2-week notice for my job. In the email, I also specified the dates within those 2 weeks where my available hours would be different BC of the new job that I had already joined. I wrote out the dates/times and even bolded/highlighted this info. My email could not have been any more clear. The first of these dates of adjusted availability was 2 days after sending the email. And sure enough, my boss called me twice that day while I was at my new job, probably wondering where I was. When I had a break, I listened to his voicemails. First one was like, "Hey, call me back when you can." Second one was like, "Don't worry about calling me back. I'm already on my way there, and you don't have to come in later today." This was in reference to the fact that in my email, I had offered to come in the afternoon that day, which made me think that he hadn't read my email yet until call #2. A coworker later confirmed with me that our boss admitted that he had received my email but didn't read it BC it was too long. The subject line of my email was along the lines of 2-week notice and availability changes. IDK, what more I could have done. I didn't, and still don't, feel sorry for him at all. Lol. Your story was too long. Therefore I didn't read it. I'm curious what kind of work you did where you could both give only 14 days notice and get to choose your own working hours during that time. And also not once ask your boss, "Hey, did you read my letter of resignation yet?" Fun fact, you can resign with no notice. And unless it's a decent job you might return to, there isn't a good reason to do anything else. If they were to fire you, would they give you a 2-week notice? In several situations, I have found it advantageous to have positive references from my last employer and my former co-workers. YMMV. I've worked with a lot of people who couldn't seem to absorb more than one topic per message, unfortunately. Agreed. I've even switched back to interleaved email replies, with limited success. I can still clearly reply question by question clearly and briefly, and still get a response to only one of the random items in the response or something unrelated. After some time I have come to the conclusion that some people find it much easier to explain something in person, rather than trying to type it out. However, given the two, I would prefer in email most of the time. As a contractor for gov agencies, I have found that phone call/pop meetings with no minutes are often used to avoid accountability for answers. Years back I began the practice of sending emails after a meeting to capture direction in writing. Literally having to state that a given project won't move forward until written direction or revision to a statement of work is provided. Edit. Spelling. Doctor's appointments that could have been a phone call or a message on my chart, such as bringing you in to tell you your results are normal/fine. I call patients for lab results or various other minor tests, but I bring them in to follow up results of echocardiograms, heart ultrasound, heart monitors, cardiac MRIs, and cardiac CTs. I'm not given much time in my day for follow-up calls, and those results often require an extensive conversation, even when normal. I feel that the discussion of those results warrants a full visit, which also allows the patient to more freely ask questions without feeling pressured. I have heard almost no complaints about this strategy. In fact, most patients express appreciation for how we do it, and the fact that they get results quickly and have a better understanding of what the results mean due to the longer allotted time for the visit versus a 2-second phone call, or even worse, a vaguely worded result letter. I get it, but also, I have a lump on my breast. I go to the doctor, happily shell out $80 for him to send me to an ultrasound. Ultrasound is $250. They tell me there that they will recommend a biopsy, but when I ask if I can just do it now, they say, no, I have to go get the results and a new prescription from my GP. Back to the GP, $80 for him to also tell me I need a biopsy. I'm still okay with this. Like your comment, it was nice having him to talk to and answer questions. The biopsy is $500 plus. Now my wallet is stretched. I'm exhausted from the back and forth from the doctors and having to catch up missed work. The biopsy people and my doctor already told me it's most likely fibroids, too small to be removed, and this is just confirmation. When they tell me I have to go back a third time to my GP to get the results, I kinda just yelled at the receptionist, can you just tell me if I have cancer or not? $80 for them to say what they've been saying all along? Just a text would have been nice. I still haven't gotten the official results. I didn't have another $80 on me, and work was too busy. I'm just assuming if it was cancer they would have called. I'll get the results in a few months when I go in to renew my prescriptions. Your point is valid. I think the issue here is also that it's not really the doctor setting these rules exactly. The system is set up in a way that screws over the patient and burns out the doctor. The admins and insurance companies make it very hard to do things in a logical way. We need more doctors, and office visits need to be compensated better, vs surgeries/procedures, so that people go into the thinking fields of medicine more often, like family medicine and internal medicine. Right now there are not enough primary care physicians, so every doctor has too many patients, and basically there aren't enough hours in the day to address every patient the way you would hope is possible. It's not your fault as the patient, but unfortunately it isn't really your doctor's fault either. My GP does a sort of phone triage. When I make an appointment, it will either be a video chat or phone call appointment. If after that she still needs to see you in person, you will get a second appointment later that day, usually after lunch. So like, my husband is on blood pressure medication, and when he needs a refill, he makes the phone call appointment and emails the results from his home BP machine ahead of time. He and the doctor chat on the phone, then she faxes, emails, not sure, the prescription refill to the pharmacy. Any lab requisitions for blood tests are emailed to us. It's incredibly convenient. It also means I haven't had issues getting appointments for urgent issues, because there's appointments available in the afternoon. She started doing this during COVID, and it's been so efficient she kept doing it. Or send me my test results via email or text. Nope. Download the app, create a login, receive messages on the app. I know HIPAA, but nothing about medical appointments in America has been made easier. They make you log into the app, because it's literally illegal to do it via text or email. They are not secure enough. An encrypted email would probably be fine, but most people won't have the technical know-how or patience to work around with that. Source: I work in health IT as a software developer, including for a few years at the company that makes my chart. Side note, Daily Bases would be a cool name for a bar outside a baseball stadium. Daily Bassist would be a great news website for bass players. Just like those $1 flyers that you get from the homeless guy at busy intersections. Fabric softener in the washer. Waste of money, and actually destroys your clothes. Weakens the fibers, adds residue and perfume on your clothes. Majority of adds the risk of making clothes less breathable by removing the ability for the fabric to reduce moisture from the skin. And flammable. Yes. Also not good for sensitive skin. The fragrance and chemical coating that's left on the clothes is rubbing against you all day. I use white vinegar instead of softener. It has the added benefit of taking out the odors instead of masking them. Do you think this would be okay in a communal apartment washer? I always see this recommended and wanna try it, but I'm afraid of messing something up. Vinegar can actually help remove stink from a washing machine too, so it's likely benefiting everyone, provided you use the right vinegar, distilled white vinegar, as mentioned by others. It is supposed to be distilled white vinegar, not regular white vinegar. It is diluted and less acidic. They sell it at Walmart, but not all grocery stores. Edit. Words are hard when you first wake up. Diluted is not the correct word, though it is less acidic. From an article I read, white and distilled are types of vinegar. They differ fundamentally in their acetic acid content. White, also known as spirit vinegar, has 5% to 20% acetic acid. This is generally higher as compared to distilled vinegar's 5% to 8%. Distilled and diluted are usually antonyms, FYI, and also builds up over time with your sweat, dead skin cells etc., which is a bigger problem on synthetic sportswear fabrics, bras etc. that you can only wash on cooler 30-degree cycles, as you can't remove this buildup without running these pieces of clothing and underwear on a much hotter cycle with vinegar. So those garments end up smelling, even after they've been laundered. Depends. For a while, when I was growing up, we hung our wash out to dry, and fabric softener was a necessity because of how hard the water was. Without it, everything would dry all crusty, and it was very uncomfy to wear/use. Power indicator LEDs on anything and everything. I do not need a blue LED to light up half my bedroom just to tell me that a gadget I'm not even using has electrical contact with the wall outlet. It's so bad for sleep hygiene and serves no practical purpose that could not be achieved another way. They're on everything from charging docks to monitors, to power strips to headphones to desk fans. It's absurd. I really wish the trend of putting unnecessary LEDs on every single electronic gadget ever would go away. OMG yes, my toothbrush has one and blinks while illuminating the entire bedroom. Drives me crazy, so I don't charge my toothbrush at night anymore. It's awful. At home I banish lights from my room, but my last job had me traveling a lot for work, and I had a lot less control over my environments living out of hotels. Lights everywhere. I started traveling with a little bit of black electrical tape which I would use to cover up the half dozen or more LEDs all over the room. It worked great. You can get it in different colors, and it has a nice smooth looking finish and leaves no residue behind when you remove it, so you might be able to find some that matches your toothbrush color and cover it up. I live with my BF now, and he has a lot more gadgets than I do. I use the electrical tape trick on them too, and I'm far happier for it. I use a sleep mask, but even with that, if I'm winding down before bed with a book, all I want in the room is soft light that is heavier on the red side of the spectrum. So many studies out there that tell us blue and white light disrupts the chemical signaling in our brain and interferes with things like melatonin production. Meetings, the practical alternative to work. Meetings were invented to keep managers out of the way of the people doing the actual work. The T at the end of French words. The entire racking ending on third person plural verbs, for that matter. Bedskirt used to help reduce odors from chamber pots overnight, which were kept underneath the bed. This is so gross, but I totally get it, and makes total sense. Always wondered about this. This makes much more sense than the explanation my dad offered me as a kid, which was that some repressed Victorian perverts were aroused by the legs of a bed frame, and so now we all have to cover them, because uptight people think they are too sexual/lewd. I have a book in which a woman in the 1980s went around interviewing very elderly residents of Glasgow about their lives in the Victorian era. One explicitly comments about that myth and says, effectively, goodness, no, it wasn't anything like that. We just loved to put bits and bobs of lace on anything that stood still, so furniture legs weren't spared the attention. I think I've read somewhere else that the sexual legs myth originated in a travel book that was joking about how uptight Americans were, but the book was popular in Britain, and so eventually became associated with Brits. Neckties. I was once told by an attorney that presentation is everything. People make up their minds about you within the first 15 to 30 seconds of seeing you. The don't judge a book by its cover thing doesn't always apply in the professional world, so I actually think a necktie still has use. I had an attorney tell me that he has to drive a nice car, even though he doesn't care about cars. If he shows up in a late model Honda Civic, the client doesn't think, wow, this attorney really understands value and is wise in his decision making. Instead, they think, a Civic? This guy must not be a good attorney. Unfortunately, an attorney is one of those jobs where you really do need to look successful to attract high-paying clients. Nicely dressed, nice car, nice offices, etc. Same is true in finance and even more a direct link. People want to see their financial advisor driving a nice, but not too nice, vehicle. Show that they know how to handle money, but it doesn't look like they live high luxury off your hard-earned money. Psychology is fascinating. Hell, I'm a mechanic. Drove a 16-year-old pickup that looked brand new. Went for a job interview. The owner of the shop asks, "That yours?" "Yup." "Nice." Told me later that it was one of the main reasons I got the job. He figured if I took that good care of my own truck, mechanics are notorious for driving shitboxes that run well, then I'd take care of customers just as well. Ha. I love how it's kind of the opposite. They want to see you driving an old beater, but it has to run well. This is lovely. Thanks for sharing. Horoscopes. Don't you mean birthday racism? Yup. I saw a dating profile that said no Scorpios. Weird bigotry. Thank you.